こっちゃ狼。
おそばにおります。竜の涙。
我が生涯の忍びを、虫たちをお願いできますか。
Oof. Heavy stuff after the euphoria of beating Ishin. Oh man, he becomes like the next sculptor.
これはやはりあなたが持っていてください。また新しい忍びが力を求める時が来るでしょう。
Damn. There it is. Roll credits, my friends, on yet another brilliant game by Fromsoft. They're blowing my mind, man. It's my third one. So Bloodborne, Elden Ring, and now Sekiro in the books. And they're all just somewhere ranging between like excellent to masterpiece. And this game as well, I really, really enjoyed it. It was billed as being one of the best, and people who knew me said that I'd probably like this one a lot, maybe more so than Bloodborne. And there are people I know who like this game more than Elden Ring, and having played it through, I can definitely see it. Like, this game like really appeals to, you know, my aesthetic tastes. The storytelling I think is definitely a bit more conventional, it's easy to follow. When I was making choices, I felt like I understood more what was going on and the choices that I was making. And that's one thing where when it came to Elden Ring, there was too much of the game where I was kind of making a decision or responding to someone and not having really any idea what this means in terms of the big picture. But here, because we have the more centralized story of trying to sever immortality, it's like when a choice comes related to that, it's like, okay, do you want to sever immortality or do you not? And that simplicity, I think I personally prefer. I like my sort of storytelling, I think, a bit more conventional. And there is some magic, of course, to the Elden Ring lore, and I love, like, you know, reading about it and listening to people talk about it and discussing it myself. But for the core experience while I'm playing the game, just like from start to roll credits, I prefer the Sekiro style. And what I liked about it is that it didn't kind of, for me at least, it didn't come at the expense of having the Fromsoft kind of, you know, philosophy going on. There was still a lot of interesting lore going on behind the scenes, stuff that you had to dig deep to find. There were descriptions of things that you had to read to fully understand what was going on. The NPCs had their own interesting, sometimes cryptic tales and motivations and that kind of stuff. And there was just a lot of secrets to be found as well for those looking to search for it. And so I think in that sense, like, this game definitely appealed to me a lot. And I would say still the place where it shined the most was just like one-on-one combat. To me, this game has probably, like, in terms of action games I've played, it probably has the best one-on-one combat I've ever personally played, I think. It's this really interesting kind of hybrid of there's fundamentals you have to know and you have to develop at and get better at, while also giving you enough freedom to kind of play your way and have lots of different tools at your disposal. But everyone's got to learn the same kind of base fundamentals if you want to make it to the end. But that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's experience ends up being the same. So again, with Elden Ring, it's kind of I loved it. It was incredible how open-ended Elden Ring is, and you can approach it in a literally 1,000,001 different ways. But sometimes, like, you could play the game in a way that your experience could vary so wildly that you lose maybe a bit of cohesion between different players and different runs, and with the game and that kind of thing. Like this one, I just feel like they built a core kind of gameplay system and mechanic, and then they expanded around it so that by the time you get to the end of it, you've all kind of had a similar type of experience, but you've still had it in your own way. So I feel like this game really finds the sweet spot of that, and so I really did appreciate that. Now, overall, like, I think the boss battles, they were excellent, but I think, for me at least, the middle kind of 70% of the game, I would say, like, the bosses weren't as great as I expected. I think Genichiro kind of spoiled me, because Genichiro just really ramped everything up, and it was an incredible boss fight. For me, like, one of the best I've ever had in the Fromsoft kind of games that I've played. But then anything kind of subsequent from there until basically all the way at the end, it just didn't really reach that height. And I would have loved a little more kind of consistency in the kind of highlight marquee bosses along the way. So Corrupted Monk is a big one for a lot of people, and for me it was a really good boss. But again, for me, it still paled in comparison to the likes of Genichiro. And so I think that's one area where it's like it's not absolutely top level. Like the top 3 to 5 bosses were excellent, like amazing. But I think there was a lot of like mini bosses that were forgettable, and I think maybe because of the whole mini boss system, it maybe came at the expense of some better individual like main extraordinary foe bosses. So I think in terms of my favorites, obviously Ishin, Genichiro, I would say obviously Demon of Hatred, for sure. Then we had Guardian Ape, which I thought was brilliant. And then I think I've always been a fan of Lady Butterfly. I think Lady Butterfly is a great boss, especially early on in the game, for people that are newer to it. I just thought she just stands apart. You don't get to fight that many females, first of all, anyway. And she's this like incredibly talented, like skillful old granny that you have to try and overcome with her cool moves. And like walking on the webs of the kunai or whatever it was that she was doing, I thought was really cool. And so I thought she was super cool. And yeah, like Corrupted Monk was also really, really nice. But yeah, I think the mini boss thing, I generally really like it. But I think when I'm comparing it to the absolute, like, for me, because Elden Ring still stands at the top of the mountain, especially like the final part of Elden Ring, like for me, the bosses that I encountered during that sort of once you get to Farum Azula and you get to like Godskin Duo, which I personally had a really fun time. I really enjoyed that boss battle. It was cancer for some, but for me it was really good. And then of course you had like Malekith, and then you had Hoaraloo, and it's like that whole like section of the game was just so strong. And then of course you've got iconic bosses like Margit, and then you've got Radahn. Like there was just so much there that for me, I think overall, like in terms of epic boss battles, it just had more of them. And so yeah, I think on like a per boss basis, Sekiro ranks extremely highly. It's pretty much close to Elden Ring, but I think overall Elden Ring still has more bosses that I remember, and that obviously it's built to have a bit more boss variety as well, because in terms of gameplay you can have so much more variety. Bosses need to be more varied too, and so they kind of stand out in my mind a bit more, I think, in that sense. And so yeah, I would say Sekiro overall, incredible experience. I'm very glad I played it. It won Game of the Year the year it came out, and is definitely like that kind of level. Like I say, I think raw like one-to-one combat, the sharpness, the tightness, the way that it trains the player, the way that it prepares the player, There were bosses like the centipede one really sticks out because it was a kind of boss I didn't like the boss, but it was almost like that grudging feeling where when you go to school and you have a teacher that you don't like, but then when it's all said and done, you kind of acknowledge that they did a good job of teaching you. I felt like that's what that boss was like, and there were numerous bosses throughout the game that helped you to build your fundamentals, and you know, it taught you patience. It taught you obviously the deflection, the timing, the reflexes. It tried its best to teach you, you know, when to jump, when to try and Mikiri counter, when to step dodge, all of those things. And the way that that slowly over time, for the average player, I would say, I would call myself an average player of these games. The way that that sort of builds up over time, and you don't feel it too much as you're going through the game, but then when you look back on how you were playing 10 hours ago, 20 hours ago, you've changed. And that's why editing has been really fun for this one, because I've been able to literally kind of watch myself, and even now, like, I can see how much I progress, and there's things that I'm doing in like episode 5, 8, 10, 12, 15, and I'm watching it back and I'm just like, whoa, like, were you really this bad at this certain stuff while I'm doing these kind of things? And I think in terms of that type of progression, I think Sekiro probably is the best that I've played. Like the learning curve and the difficulty curve for this game is really, really cool, and it teaches you in just such a cool way that it really, that part of it is very memorable. I really felt like I went through some kind of shinobi gameplay school and I graduated when I defeated Ishin. Like, that's the feeling that I got from this one, and that really appeals to my own personal taste. And so yeah, just brilliant game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed the journey of seeing me kind of start off like very stealthy, very slow paced, wasn't dying very much for a few hours, and I was trying to get my feel for the game. Then obviously the game sort of pushes you on. It says, okay, like, you know, you've started to familiarize yourself with the world and the traversal, which I really enjoyed as well, like the grapple hook, the quick traversal. No full deaths unless you already had low health to start with. That was really nice. But then it's like, no, you've got to up the ante. You've got to get better at deflecting, at all of the fundamentals that I've mentioned. And then you build your confidence, you get a bit better. And so even though you keep your stealth element, for me at least, I always kept the stealth element when I could, but I felt a lot more confident to just come out and start beating enemies and taking them down with more authority when the time called for it. At least, you know, according to my own play style. And so the way that that sort of experience evolved, and I had those sessions where I'd built up a bunch of bosses I couldn't defeat, and I was feeling like I was getting stuck, and I came back the next session, improved my fundamentals, discovered some more tools and some more options, got better at the game, and then before you know it, those 3-4 bosses that were a roadblock, you've cleared most, if not all of them. And then just when you're feeling good, another little roadblock comes, and then like that whole kind of backwards and forwards, it can be very frustrating for some, but for me it's the type of thing I really enjoy. And so this game was just really masterful in the way that it did all of that stuff. And so yeah, I would say overall, truly excellent game, and a great addition for me, and a really great experience for me. Okay, so now that I've talked about all of that, I didn't want to continue going on here because I wanted to do this in real time, so I kind of left this screen on for a little bit, so apologies for that. But let's see what it says. Start playthrough number 2 now. If you choose not to start playthrough number 2 now, you may do so by accessing the large sculptor's idol in the dilapidated temple at any time. So I'm going to say no. And let's see where this takes us. Does this mean we get to refight Ishin, or it's just an empty kind of field and you can do what you want? Okay, memories left behind by another. Concentrate on these inmost regrets or obsessions as a sculptor's idol to change the wolf's appearance has no effect on ability. The memory of a shinobi that once served Ashina. It is accompanied by a debt of gratitude to the one who took his arm and graced him with the name Sekiro. Okay. Okay. That's very interesting. I just want to understand where we're at in terms of the story, the situation. Where's Emma, for example? So he's still here, just waiting for me to kill him. Interesting. I want to quickly head back to some of these bits here. The change form menu has been unlocked. Change form allows you to alter your appearance based on the memories of another in your possession. Gauntlet of Strength. Yeah, that's what to do. Yeah, because I reload the save, I still have 30% unseen aid. Nice. We'll take that. How many skill points do you even need to do that? Do this one. Okay. One who returns from the great beyond does so at the peak of their prosperity. Ishin covered his strength and all manner of techniques throughout his mortal struggle. He wished for war until his final hour, and that's precisely what he got. Attack power to 13, very nice. Yeah, let's see what happens here. And I don't know if changing into the Sekiro form kind of changes any outcomes here. This is stuff I'm going to have to research from this point. Okay, not much going on here. Yeah, I just wondered, I don't know, if like immortality had been severed, like Hanbei for example and stuff like that, what would happen with him? Not sure. Okay, so I think here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to wrap up here. This was literally perfect timing. I need to stop playing now anyway. We're going to wrap up here, and then I'm going to do some research. Like, who is there left to fight? What is there left to do? And we will have probably like one more session in which I will come back to the game and do some things that I never got to do in my first kind of blind run. So we'll see how that goes. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have enjoyed this series so far. There's probably going to be like 1 or 2 more episodes. Maybe 3 or 4, I don't know, depending on exactly how much I missed and how many alternatives we have. But hopefully I will show you guys everything of interest to me in this playthrough. So I will see you soon. Thank you for watching. Take care.